React Europe Hangout with Shawn Wang. He's
Hey.
mostly known as Swix. Hi, Shawn. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, my Six is my initials, and
But
I go by either, and doesn't really matter.
do you have any preference?
People usually use Swix just because it's cool to say. That's all.
Actually, I had a hard time looking for your real name because it's not on your website. Is that on purpose?
Yeah, Jared Palmer told me to fix that, and then I haven't done it yet. But yes, I need to put my full name on the website.
I mean, I read your blog post and you said that putting your real name was very important. So you need to follow
Oh,
your.
so real
Or
slash
it
professional name.
depends.
Yeah, professional name is fine. It's kind of like how actors will have like a working name and then you'll have a real name. Just whatever, just be consistent, right? That's the whole idea.
Yeah. So for anybody who doesn't know you are the moderator of the Reddit of the React Reddit subreddit, sorry, and you used to work for Netlify, and you were famous for doing React with TypeScript. Is that it?
Sure. Yeah.
Um,
I
what else?
don't I don't really yeah, I don't really like run any large open source libraries or anything. I just dabble and then write blog posts and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you do a lot of public education. Um, so lately, you've been writing a lot about how to market yourself. You've even wrote a book about it. So this is how we're here today. What can you tell us about it? Well, first of all, is that marketing yourself as a developer in general, or for people who are looking to be more like entrepreneurial, or is it for any kind of career?
I focused it on developers just because that's the only thing I know.
But I mean, is it
So
for developers who are looking to start their own company, or is it for any kind of career? Is it even for employees?
yeah, employees as
Employees?
well.
Okay.
Yeah, like the whole last section is how to market yourself at work.
Okay.
So that's yeah. I mean, I think people who want to be entrepreneurs, who are developers, there's plenty of marketing advice for entrepreneurs, and they should listen to that because I am not an entrepreneur. I don't know anything about that. But I think I try to lay down some advice for marketing yourself at work as a developer because I think that's something that maybe is underexplored. And a lot of developers, I mean, the reason I did it now was because I was like, this is the one piece of thing that I probably can do well that might help people right now, because everyone, even if you still have a job, you want to hold on to your job. But it also is like a long-term skill. It's not just because of this crisis. It's also just like a long-term career skill that we need to have a good discussion about. There isn't that much marketing advice for developers, basically. I mean, yeah, so if I don't know how you want to do this, I have the blog post pulled up and I can kind of go through and narrate a little bit, basically because I don't have slides. But I can still kind of talk through my thoughts and explain a little bit more if people have questions. Yeah, stop me at any point. I'm going to take over the screen. Let's see if I can do this. Can you see the site? Cool. And I also cross post to dev2, dev.2 slash marketing yourself. Um, and that's mainly because I use dev2 as my CMS, but it's the same content. And we can also change the theme if it's a little bit easier to read. Okay. So the main idea that I basically the way I did this was I just listed down a bunch of advice. I actually live streamed the process of writing this, and some people actually helped me sort of flesh it out. And I just put all my advice down in a single list of bullet points, and then I sorted it and grouped it by logical sections, and this is what I came up with. And so the idea is that
we can also
there's all your
change the theme
assets,
if it,
like what you have, what you have to market, and then there's the strategies of like how you actually market, whether you're in public or in private, but at work, right? So the whole concept is that a lot of people think that a lot of people understand that marketing itself is important, but they don't really they kind of the reason they kind of fall down is that they kind of doubt their ability to do it. They look at a lot of developer celebrities in our field, and they're like, I'm not like that. I don't want to be like that. There's a lot of pressure. It takes work. A lot of them are like full-time, self-employed or like DevRel or whatever, and that's not very relatable. So I just wanted to focus on exactly the working developer and someone who's not always marketing themselves. So that's the framing. Like that's why I was like, you don't have to constantly market yourself, but whenever you've done something significant, and whenever you're about to do some professional move, like you're about to start a job search, or a project launch, then you also want to pull up the marketing yourself advice, because that's going to become more relevant. um, yeah, so that's basically the first part. Basically that people understand that marketing is important. I saw a survey from Zell, who recently ran a marketing course as well, and he did a survey, and he was like, yeah, 90% of respondents said that they understood that marketing was important, but they just really didn't do it very much. And I think the central thesis is that marketing is not celebrity, right? Celebrities live by their marketing, but you can also market as an individual developer, individual person as well. It's just like saying your favorite restaurant shouldn't bother trying because McDonald's already exists. Both have different kinds of marketing and value propositions to different audiences. Um, so the core insight is that people want to put you in a box, regardless, right? Like when you introduce me, you already introduced me, putting me in some of the React boxes that people will understand. That helps people relate to me, but obviously it doesn't capture everything that I've done in React, and nor would I expect it to. So my job is to help you put me in a box, in the most relevant, the most useful box, and that helps me market myself, right? Where you understand how to pitch me, even without me being there. So that's the rough idea. Um, the reasons marketing is difficult is, code is black and white, marketing is shades of gray. It's kind of like mumbo jumbo, and then a lot of the advice is very generic. So the whole intent of this blog post is to try to be a lot more specific about that. Did you have a question? Oh, cool. Um, so the first part of the essay, I guess, is just like trying to talk about um, good marketing. Like, I think there's a lot of kind of scammy marketing where people will, do things like you'll put up a blog post, and then halfway through they'll like throw up a sign up for my newsletter, modal, and then it's just really super annoying. Um, and but I think everyone has some example of um, marketing that resonates with them. Like they're like, okay, I learned about this person, this company, this product from this venue, and I benefited from that. So you understand what good marketing is, and you have a sense of like the kinds of things that appeal to you, and you also want to benefit, right? You want to be that thing that other people find out about. You want to make yourself available, and that helps you with opportunities. And the core insight about not being a celebrity is that you don't have to do this for the whole world, right? You don't have to have a giant follower count. You don't have to have a massive mailing list. You just have to identify the people that you want to work with, the people that you want to work for, and only be known to those. That's it. So it's a much more focused value proposition. It's much less tiring, and I think it's just more satisfying because your hit rate will be higher because you're more targeted. Um, I also kind of call this your luck surface area because um, yeah. Well, we'll talk about that in later on, but that also matters. In the sense that marketing yourself helps you expand your luck surface area by um, letting people find you instead of you searching out for opportunities. So the first part is personal branding. Um, and I kind of refer to this diagram, right? Like we're kind of like surveying our assets, right? What we have, and like organizing them and sort of refining what we offer to the market before we actually go out into the market. Let's talk about personal branding. Hey, Will. Hey, it's Will Johnson and this one. So yeah, personal branding. Yeah, obviously, I think this a lot of people kind of associate this with marketing. I kind of try to make the difference distinction for people. So personal, think of yourself as an unmarked can of soda. You've got some awesome stuff inside, but nobody knows about it. So branding puts a logo and colors on the can, and then marketing gets that can with the branding out in front of people. Um, so branding is the stuff that uniquely identifies you, and marketing just gets your awesome in front of people. And that's kind of why branding is so tightly associated with marketing. For example, you're already familiar with like some very very strong brands. Like you don't want a laptop, you want a MacBook. You don't want an electric vehicle, you want a Tesla, right? There's so much other. You don't want a soft drink, you want a Coca-Cola, whatever. There's so many other like examples of like brands that just create their own market, and that's really awesome because then people um, cannot compete with being you. Like you've just defined the brand so well, and you can just own that category really well. The other thing about personal branding is that there's just so many different angles that you can approach personal branding with, and you can just kind of create it out of thin air. There's no like pre-made components to put together, and it's not like a strict formula. It really helps you highlight your like the full diversity of you know yourself as and of humanity, and I think people enjoy that a lot. So let's talk about picking a personal brand. Like first, the definition: your personal brand is how people talk about you when you're not in the room. I find this to be the simplest and most clear and distinct definition. I think a lot of people agree. And the moment I say it, they're like, "Yeah, okay, I understand." Because like it's not about how you do it. It's like the impact it has on people. Like and the impact is that you want people to have like no matter what you do, you have a brand. So the only thing you have to try to do is to control what people say, not control what people give them all the materials that they need to give it to have that message that you want them to say. Like um so you have I guess you have some control over it. I don't know. Anyway, so the main reason I realized this was because I was at a house party. Actually, it was an egghead house party. Um, and basically 3 different people introduced me in at 3 separate occasions, and they all introduced me the same way, talking about learning in public. And that's how I understood that I had a personal brand. Um, I didn't really try to have that, but I think when you have a successful brand, like people will be able to introduce you in the most effective way, um, and it's pretty consistent among everyone who knows you, and they all agree that that is your brand. That is a strong brand. The other part about picking a personal brand is that you want to pick things that are not average, things that are interesting. I know this sounds like probably obvious, so that's why I don't. I basically I never talk about my hobbies because my hobbies are basically the same as everyone else's hobbies. Plus, I code and write. Um, but like I know all the other things that spark interest, and I those are conversation starters. Those are identity touch points. Like if I share any one of these things with you, you immediately feel closer to me because we share identities. And that's a lot of how brands work these days, right? Like I don't know, I don't even know about this these days. I think it's just that's just how it's always worked. So anything that's not average is ripe for conversation. In particular, diversity is strength, adversity is strength, weakness is strength. Basically, like even if you overcame, like if you're in prison, right, or if you like had like are dealing with some addiction problem and you overcame it, that's strength. That's something that nobody others don't. The only requirement for that to be for your personal brand is that you have to own it. You have to be comfortable identifying with it, and you have to spin it positively so that people don't come away that you know bummed out. Uh, with the sob story, because people want to be entertained, they want to be educated, they want to be inspired and motivated, and if they associate your story with happy emotions, then they'll associate they'll enjoy seeing you again, and they sort of light up when they see you. So a very simple formula for personal branding. This is not the only way to do it, but I think it's a very simple way that just works well. It's kind of like identity plus opinions, or identity. Like I don't know if I don't know. I don't think this like opinions is like the best choice of word, but essentially like the thing that you work on that you're known for. So like these we all know these people like the Mormon that teaches JavaScript testing. That's one very specific person, and a theater nerd is Chloe Condon. There's all these like X plus Y. One is identity is like kind of like your story, like in your story in a very very short pitch. Like my story is I used to be from finance, right, and everyone knows that. Um, uh, and there's a lot of career changers in tech, and a lot of them can bring in their backgrounds. Kent can bring in the fact that he used to teach Mormon mission, and that's where he got a lot of his teaching skills. And Jen Luker brings in a lot of her knitting into the way that she talks about software architecture. And then the thing that you're about, right? I'm about testing, I'm about cloud computing, I'm about accessibility of state machines. So you know all these people. If you want, you can also, if you don't have something that you're comfortable identifying like that, you can also just have a professional association. People understand companies and understand that you do a lot of work at the company that relates to that skill, right? So like, how do we use RxJS at Google? Oh, there's exactly one person to ask about that. It's Ben Lesh. So, um, so I mean that's a brand, and I think you will have a brand no matter what you do. It's up to you to really siphon out the identity that you want people to remember you for, and it's really easy, right? It's not super complicated, but it is almost like as good as your name, as far as like our web dev circles are concerned, right? So you really want to be sure that like that's the thing that you want, because you'll start getting opportunities that flow to you, and people start remembering you more. The reason I try to emphasize personal connection is that that's what a personal brand is. If you don't have, if you're just about tech, then you're kind of impersonal, and nobody really connects with you very well. So you want to have a bit of personality, a bit of tech. You know what I mean? So that's the idea. This is not the only way to do it. I'm sure there's a lot other examples that you can think of. Um, I just try to give a simple formula for people who want to think about themselves. Okay, then the other thing is consistency. So I already hinted at this a lot, which is especially developers, we really love consistency. And I kind of take this to an extreme level. So I even went down to like, okay, photo, have the same photo, small in your photo, and use it everywhere. Because like people see this more than your face. Like people see the photo of your face more than your face, like your real face, right? Like so even in Slack, people like familiar things, and every time it shows up, if you associate it with good work and positive emotion and good news and all that, it doesn't always have to be positive, but like generally like you're seen as a thoughtful, helpful, positive person. People associate you with that emotion, and this works at a subliminal level. Like you're kind of shortcutting the conscious thought, and just like people react on a subconscious level. So this is really about like kind of grooming the way that you look online, because especially right now, like we all exist more online than we do in person, which is a little bit worrying, but that's just how we have to live. And I mean, it's good. It's a good exercise to do anyway. We talked a little bit about real names. Obviously, I have two names, right? And I've adopted Swix as my personal name, as my professional name. Michael Chan from the React podcast also has adopted Chantastic. And it's just really up to you, but like the whole point is just to be consistent, so that when people tag you, people see your name everywhere. I love to be de-anonymize myself on anonymous platforms. People really like respect that for some reason. I don't understand why. But basically, you're saying like I have this option of being anonymous, and I choose not to do it because I stand behind my words, and people respect that. All right, username, words, yeah. So this is a kind of a prototype of like attaching yourself to a domain. Like you should be associated with a small set of words, essentially like SVG animation, React, and TypeScript. That's me. You can have Google alerts or TweetDeck filters. Like I'm pretty sure David Khorshid has a TweetDeck filter for state machines. Um, yeah, and you show up, and then people like understand that you're trying to associate yourself with this domain. You get tagged, you're in discussions, and you get better, and then people ask you questions, and that's how you build a brand, right? It really is like you give them all these raw materials, right? And people just imprint on that. That's just how we work, right? So really, like this is probably too many words for people who already understand, but I'm really trying to spell this out for people who are like don't know, right? Like this is more real than your business card because nobody uses business cards these days. We use profiles. So like better get your profile in order. um, so the kind of like tagline, I will say like you will have made it when people start making fun of you. Can people make memes of you? If people can meme you, you have a brand. I think that's a really good bar. Um, I think so. I'm not funny, but uh, I mean, so like the other day, let me show you like this is how strong Mark Dalglish's brand is, right? So from Swix to Mark Dalglish, he had some stand. He tried to thought lead on memes, and then I took him apart, right? Is that his name? Shit. Ah, Mark Dalglish. Hang on. From Swix to Mark Dalglish. Okay, I make me of myself. Um, hang on. No, I sent him a bunch of things recently. Yeah. Okay. So Mark, right? Mark loves he's the meme guy, but he also has other things that he's passionate about. He's passionate about CSS, UX, right? But he's passionate about layout, and he's passionate about memes. So I can make fun of him, and we all did, right? So I made this meme, like this is how you trigger Mark. You use impact font, you use image flip, you talk about design systems, and you put white space in components, and he loved it. But like that's a like okay, he's known for memes, but then he's also known for like the stuff that he wants to be known about, which is design systems, white space. Um, I just made more and more because I like going to town on him. Um, yeah, see this is the layout thing. He's been giving a few talks about layout and text and stuff like that. Yeah, so like just like small examples. Obviously, that's not a necessity because it can get a bit mean, but it's a brand. Like brands are very dumb, very simple, and you got to pick like what you want to be known for. All right. So part two. So that was first part, personal brand. Right. We're still going through this. So we went through the first part. Then we're talking about domain. Or domain. So yeah. So the real kind of assertion is that you need a domain. Um, so in a literal sense, like yourname.com, whatever, minus6.io. And then you pick a field that you're about. And I think this is more for people who are starting out than for people who have some general security about their field. So this is not me. I don't have a domain right now. I guess I'm the marketing yourself guy right now, but I don't want to be a soft skills person for my whole life. I'm only doing this because this is my only time in my life that I'm between jobs, and I think that it might be helpful to other people. But I want to be known for technical things. I don't want to be the soft skills guy. Um, so yeah, having a domain is essentially like planting your flag, like just saying like there's all this cool stuff in tech, right? And you want to dabble in all of them because they're all cool, right? like Patrick, you organize a conference and you're a merchant of cool, right? You have all this cool stuff, 2 days of awesome ideas and events, and nobody can try all that stuff out. It would go crazy. So the whole idea is that like you need to plant your flag in one thing and just be really good at exploring and exploiting that. So the way it's kind of crude, like the kind of sexist way to phrase this is that be the guy. So I don't know if this may be an American thing, but do you know about the points guy? So the points guy is literally one guy who started a blog about how to maximize frequent flyer miles, right? Um, and credit card points. When you spend money, you get credit cards, and people understand that they're leaving money on the table. Everyone has a credit card. We would like to be better at it, right? So he was like, "I'll be your guy. I'll be your points guy." Right? So frequent flyer miles, hotel rewards, credit cards, anything that's like free money that's left on the table, right? He just owned this domain, and no one else was the points guy because this is literally your points guy. You just come here and you figure out, oh, I want to know about Spirit Airlines from New York to Fort Lauderdale. Guess what? He has an article on it. And it's just obviously, and this is now like a multi-hundred-million-dollar business, and he sold it recently. I think he's done very well for himself owning this domain. The rideshare guy, even more niche. This guy covers just Uber and Lyft. and but he specializes in interviewing Lyft drivers, like understanding economics, talking about like regulatory issues with state governments and stuff like that. When Uber and Lyft IPO'd, all of Wall Street interviewed this guy, right? Because he was the only guy focused on this, on ride sharing, because it's a growing new thing that nobody else covers, nobody else dedicated to it, right? So like I could be TechCrunch or I could be Wired, right? And I would have an article on it, whatever. I'm not committed to this domain. This guy has named himself the rideshare guy. He only does rideshare, so he has automatic credibility, right? And people love like experts. They want to say, I have a guy for that. I have a rideshare guy. I have any rideshare questions like economics or like how to sign people up, or like are people like suffering through this crisis, or are they actually doing super well because there's a lot of deliveries? They go to the rideshare guy, right? Like the kind of example that I give is in How I Met Your Mother. Barney Stinson was like, how I got a guy for everything. He has a suit guy, shoe guy, ticket guy, club guy, and if I don't have a guy for something, I have a guy to get me a guy. Like people brag about having go-to people who are resources for them. Like that's how, as an employer, you have employees. Like you delegate, right? Expertise. So as someone who wants to sell expertise, you can be that person for them. So this is kind of gender neutral. I don't want it to focus on me. So I kind of call it like having being a go-to person. You know. Um, yes, you. Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah. I think if you're transparent about that, so like, yes, your credibility is affected because your I don't know, your salary, your paycheck depends on the success of this domain, and then you might lose objectivity. But I mean, I think there are two things. First of all, you can still have very valid arguments, right? And people understand that they rather have two experts who have skin in the game than one super, like nobody's always neutral. You know what I mean? Like there's always there's always a bias somewhere, and they rather have two experts who are strongly opinionated, give the best of both their arguments, and then they decide for themselves, rather than saying like, I'm neutral, I'm exactly 50-50 on everything. Here are my super unemotional pros, neutral sort of list of pros and cons. And then second of all, if you feel like you're on the wrong side of something, you can change your brand. I'm changing my brand a little bit, right? Like I started out front end, and then with Netlify, I went into a little bit of serverless and Node.js, and then I'm going to be joining AWS, and I'm going to be. Oh, Jaskirat says he can't hear you, Patrick. Um, yeah, with AWS, I'm going to be a cloud guy, right? Like, so it's you can pivot. Like I used to be doing React. Now I'm doing a lot more Svelte, and I'm pivoting. I'm in the process of pivoting myself. Nobody like, and people understand like your interests change over time. People get it. So it's not about like um, planting your flag forever. It's just planting your flag for now, for the thing that you're trying to build a domain in. That's all. So
Okay.
yeah. Oh, picking a domain. Okay, so right. Oh, and I have one testimonial actually. So for this guy, so one of my good friends on Twitter is Joe Pravite, who works at Facebook. Um, People like planting a flag is super easy. Basically saying like this is what I do now. That's all. People automatically assign expertise to you because you have just said that that is the thing that you do. And people start referring questions to you, and you start answering. And basically, the way that most people define expertise is someone who has spent more time on a thing than I have. That is super low. That is, like within a company, right? If you happen to know a little bit more Excel than someone else, you are
Yeah.
now the Excel guy, right? It's so dumb. Like it's and so Joe, he used to be called JavaScript Joe. I told him like, and he wanted to learn TypeScript. I told him the single thing that you do is you change your name from JavaScript Joe to TypeScript Joe, and he did that. And like just like a whole bunch of questions that started coming to him, and he started being his internal company TypeScript guy. And it's such an easy hack because people want expertise, uh, and 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 I think you sort of set out your ambitions. Like maybe you don't feel like an expert yet, right? But you set out your aspirations and say like, I'm not an expert yet, but these are the things I'm interested in. Feed me everything. And they'll feed you information, they'll feed you questions, they'll feed you whatever, and then you become the expert by living that, right? So that's how powerful planting a flag is, and I think it's really part of like the whole section of picking a domain. Um, so the main thing I wanted to emphasize in this section is basically that you don't have to get too creative. You pick something important, and I think there are basically two ways to do this. Pick something that people deal with daily but aren't really experts in. Like the points guy, everyone has like rewards points, credit card points. We don't really think about it. I'd rather have an expert tell me what to do with my points. Or you pick something that people only deal with once in the blue moon, but when they do it really hurts. Like it's a real pain point. So if like database recovery, right? If my hard disk crashed, I don't know what to do, I will pay whatever it takes for a hard disk recovery guy to help me fix it. And so you really benefit because you have repeated exposure to rare events. Like for everyone else, it's rare, but for you, it's normal. And that's a really, really good way to build expertise in something that's valuable. So if you connect yourself to something important, then that's probably a good ballpark. Then also just like understand your own revealed preferences. So obviously I myself talk about stuff on Twitter and Slack a lot. I have a watch list on YouTube where I can see, on YouTube you can see your own history, right? Of like
Mhm.
what you've watched recently, and it really shows you what you want, what you enjoy, and what you want to talk about. So obviously, I think this is very common career advice. An ideal domain for you is something that seems like work to others, but you actually have fun doing. Then I think the last part is something unique, which is like within that thing that you love, find the thing that you hate, right? There's like like there are a lot of front end developers who are very passionate about their work because they love front end in general, but then there's specific things that they hate. And they're working really hard to improve that. I think obviously David Koshida is one example of like, hey, all of you are writing implicit state machines, you should be explicit. So love hate tension can really help propel you uh, to to really own a domain because you love something, but it's also not perfect. So you want to make it better. And then the final step of narrowing is you don't have to be an expert for the whole world. You can be an expert for just your company, an internal expert. It helps you bring value to your company, but then also it's the moment you leave the company, you are now an external expert on that thing anyway. So it's a very nice way to bootstrap that. So once you pick the domain, you can talk about claiming the domain. We could talk about. I mean, it's kind of this is an argument for high availability. People only consider maximum 2 options, maybe 10. Like, sorry, that's a stupid way to say maximum. People usually have 2 options. There's like the one that everyone talks about, and then there's like the second one. Like, we should check that out just to be sure. Maybe there's a third. We really struggle to get up to 10, right? Like, sometimes you have like 10 nominees at the Oscars for Best Pictures, but then like within that, there's only really 3 that have a real shot. So your job is to get into that consideration set of like top 3. And people really have this availability bias, right? They confuse first name on your lips with being the best. I have no idea if Wes Bos is the best JavaScript teacher in the world, but he's the first name on everybody's lips because he does the best marketing, therefore he's automatically one of the best JavaScript teachers.
He's very
Like,
consistent also. He creates a lot of content. And
right. So like, like people talk about him like he's the best, and he probably is, right? He grew into that. But I think we confuse being the best with the first dimension, and this is a lot more hackable than the other one, right? You can do this first. You can be first to someone's lips, and then become the best by the sheer volume of all the requests. And that's a little bit what I did with the React and TypeScript stuff. So yeah, that's kind of how I make peace with it. Like, it's not that you're a fraud. You should earn the right to be the best. You should define what being the best means. But then it's also entirely within your control to be the best, because most developers have the opposite problem. They think they're really good, but they think that they think that they have trouble marketing, and that's why nobody hears about them, right? So it's the opposite. Like, if you have something that's really good, then it's all about being within your control to be considered good, right? Considered the best. So that's kind of how I view claiming your domain. Like, you have to claim it in order to be in the consideration set, right? Because there's only a few top 1, 2, 3 that people look for. I call this high availability for humans. Like, you have to be highly available in whenever these discussions kind of show up. And the last part of claiming your domain is that you have to give up something. It's not free, right? Like you just said, there is a downside, which is you shouldn't you plant a flag here means you're not planting it anywhere else. People like to see commitment. The way that I kind of view this is, I kind of explain this, is what you lose in degrees of freedom, you gain 10x in marketing ability just by saying that you're committed. And Corey House, who's a consultant in the US, he gave this talk where he actually tried it himself. So he used to be general dev consulting, web dev. Like, he had all this like list of logos of all types of JavaScript, all types of framework, and he was like, I'm available for consulting. And then he went from that to saying one thing: I only transition teams to React. And he saw a 15 times increase in inquiries before that. So it's like the same dev, he just had a way more specific pitch, and the number of opportunities that came to him went up 15x. And it's just like, that's just how people work. Like, people want to put you in a box, help them put you in a box, right? It's and when you claim that area, all the opportunities flow to you because no one else claims that area. Like, everyone else wants to be generalist. So yeah, and the final escape is that if it doesn't work out, or if your interests change, you can always still pivot. So this is more about marketing for here and now, marketing for the person that you are right now. And if you change your mind, sure, you can change your mind later. Right. So we should also talk about blogging, because a lot of people talk about blogging. I always advise people to blog more. That's fine. I think blogs gain extra power in their focus on the domain. So right now I have a generalist blog. That's not very good. That's mainly because I'm not trying to achieve any expertise or claim any domain right now. But when I do, I will be focusing a lot more, right? CSS Tricks is a blog focused on front end, but they just started out with CSS, right? And then they expanded beyond that. So people like, as much as blogging is a personal thing, is a personal project, people are not really interested in your daily habits. Like they're not interested in what you ate for lunch. They want to come to you for something, right? so so if you focus entirely on a single domain, I think that is really good for marketing. And yeah. Yeah. Twitter is a form of microblogging, right? If it's too much work to work on a blog post, Twitter is perfectly fine, and that's a lot of how we interact as well. That's how you found me. Um, yeah, it's not your it's not your platform, so you don't own it. So you're subject to Twitter's algorithm, and someday it's gonna disappear just like everything else.
And
So
Twitter can backfire also if you.
and yeah, you can get canceled or whatever.
No, I mean,
Um,
yeah, if you tweet something people don't like, it's most likely to backfire than a blog post. I
yeah,
think.
I think that's fine. Like, um, if you blog something people don't like, people will complain about you as well. I think the more important thing is to like run everything through a filter of like how will this look? Do I stand behind what I'm about to say? Because
So I think,
like the
yeah,
yeah,
I think in blog post it's easier to explain yourself because you have much more space, and in Twitter things can go wrong more easily. I think because by
yeah,
definition there is less space to describe whatever your idea is.
yeah. I don't know. I think I just haven't had that much of a problem yet. So I haven't really worried about it. But yeah, I mean, we've all seen cases where people were really taken out of context, or they said something that was just said wrong. Like we all misspeak every now and then, you know.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, shit happens.
Well, there's people making hot takes.
Yeah.
Like they are very successful, and then they get confident, and they do a hot take that's a little stupid or something, and it goes super viral. Like you saw this tweet from the guy from Gumroad yesterday about
Oh,
recommendation.
yeah.
Um,
I mean,
like I guess he was confident because he maybe he wrote a lot of hot takes before, and it all went super popular, so he was like whatever. And
yeah, he does have a thick skin for that. Anyway, yes, Twitter has different trade-offs than blogging, and blogging has an edit button, so you can edit. All right, so let's talk about marketing and business value. Okay, so now we're here, right? We talk about personal brand, talk about domain, and we talk about now we're talking about business value and tech skills. So I think Jaskirat is a college student. He's in the chat. He's talking about improving your skills. Obviously you have to improve your skills to work in the industry, and there are a lot of areas. There are a lot of dedicated resources for that. This is more about marketing, right? Like after you feel like you have your skills. So I'm very focused on like trying to help developers market themselves. Okay, so the first like I looked for all the marketing for devs advice out there. I read through all of them, and all of them focus on this part, which is business value, marketing and business value. Like, don't talk about your tech, talk about your impact on the business, right? I saved $5 million for my company because I made this optimization. I don't know, whatever. So it's technically correct. Like you to non-technical people, to CEOs, whatever, you're a business black box where your only job is to either grow revenue or reduce cost, right? Like so, you're just a unit of labor, just like any other thing. And if you can actually market yourself that way, then do it, right? Like if you come in and say like I increase you know I increase revenues because I help to improve click-through rates by 10%, and I did it at some well-known firm, then that's something that people will hire you for to do again. And I think that's just one of many examples. But the whole point is that people care about business value because they can't relate to your technical value, right? Your technical work, your code, only has value to the extent that it has an impact on the business. So uh, the rough idea of marketing and business value is that you should have all the facts that you want to market for. A lot of people stick this in a CV, but the CV doesn't offer a lot of space. Usually it's like 4 or 5 lines. You probably should want to have a document with all the relevant statistics, data, quotes, and anecdotes for like when you solved business value problems like this. Julia Evans calls this a brag document. Like you should be able to brag about yourself. Write a one pager that helps you brag. Um, frame it in terms of what's in it for them. It's not about what you did. It's about what happened as a result of what you did, right? How the business benefited. So success is when your boss is able to repeat everything you say that you've done to her boss. So like creating advocates for yourself, right? Like obviously your boss is supposed to advocate for you, but you might as well help them, right? You might as well say like, hey, I know you're about to do this, like like I want a promotion. I know you have to justify to your boss. Here's all the things I've done, and you can click through and look at all the raw information, and you just make their lives easier to help them promote you. So it's kind of, that's all the stats that you want to advertise. Um, yeah, this is an awesome business value stat. So Patrick McKenzie talks about his friend. He wrote the backend billing code that 97% of Google's revenue passes through. Fine, that's okay. If I want a billing engineer, I get this guy. So that's business value. The book that I'm writing is focused on more early career developers, so junior devs and people who are going. So like people who are getting their entry level jobs, and then junior dev, and then junior to senior, right? At that level, you don't have that much business value yet. You don't have directly attributable business impact. You just have a bunch of tickets, right? How are you supposed to translate your work to business value if you're not assigned a number, right? You're not a business owner. You're dev, right? So I think where people miss out on marketing to developers is marketing coding skills, right? So that's why we have to have both business value and coding skills, because we have to market to developers as well. We have to pitch ourselves to the people that we want to work with. And a lot of times when we're just starting out, we don't have anything else. We haven't contributed that much business value yet. So we have to talk about coding skills, and that's what essentially portfolios are for. Essentially, I kind of boil it down to do cool shit. That's the only that's the only thing that marketing coding skills requires. Is essentially like you want to show people that you can use technology and you can code really well. Obviously, if you have something in a portfolio, that's great. If it's private work and you can't really show it in a portfolio, then you still have to be able to talk about it and describe what you did. Some people are very liberal with what qualifies as cool shit. So basically, like some people don't care about what language you worked on, right? Some people don't care what framework, right? So like if they're like, I just hired a front end dev. If you use Ember, fine. I'm sure you can pick up React, on the job. That's fine. Other employers are a little bit more conservative, and they'll be like, I'm hiring for React devs. I want people with working experience in React because I don't want you to learn on the job. There's a lot of hot takes on Twitter about this, but that's just the reality of the job market. That some people are more liberal in what they accept, and some others are more conservative. The even more conservative people also want you to do a second thing, which is covering your bases. Which is like, are you okay to work with as a team member? Do you comment your code? Do you do you know Git? Can you solve FizzBuzz? These are like basic stuff, especially as an entry level person. They want to know that you have covered your bases and you don't have any glaring obvious holes in your coding education. So you want to do cool shit. You want to cover your bases. The definition of cool really depends. I made a presentation with like really cool projects in React. So I think this is relevant for React Europe people. So let me demonstrate. So this is the state of r/React.js survey. We surveyed all the community members, and then we like surveyed like what they're interested in, what they use. But the final bit that I want to show you is the top posts of all time. So Reddit is a voting community, right? It curates by mass voting. So I just went through and just looked at like what has done really well. What do people consider cool? So like interactive demos, like this pay card demo, React Native demos for like 3D, really fancy portfolios. Basically, you can just come on Reddit and look for cool stuff. Someone just built this iPod Classic with React. It's really, obviously you need a lot of CSS skills as well. Nostalgia is a really good theme. Basically, you can recreate windows. A lot of people love recreating windows. free workshops, YouTube channel. Ben Awad is just really, I don't know how he does it. He's just so good at it. Developer roadmaps. Basically, like these are all cool things that you can work on. And so if you want project ideas, check out the subreddit. Okay. The best cool shit will be stuff that you have been paid money for and put in production. So like, hey, I worked on Shopify's React Native app that they just went into production. That is immediately more cool than any of these toy projects because this is used in production. So yeah, I'm just kind of spelling it out for people. You can clone well-known apps or win a hackathon or build your own X from scratch. All really cool ideas. And then I also wanted to talk about this portfolio thing. Obviously, you and I, we're talking about front-end developers. So front-end developers have a more visual element. But I think a lot of developers work behind the scenes, so they don't have that much of a visual element. And the problem with portfolios, they help you display. They do two good things and two bad things. They help you display your work easily. They help you diversify your appeal. So basically, if one project doesn't seem interesting to someone, you have others that could be interesting to them. So it's literally a stock portfolio, right? Like if one doesn't work out, the other one might work out. But the two bad things are that they look skimpy without quantity. So they encourage you to go for breadth, which is not great. Like you want to go deep, and then they also overly biased towards design, right? Like if I'm a backend engineer or if I work on JS infrastructure, right? All I know is like Babel transforms and stuff like that, AST transform. I don't care about design. So obviously the quick fix is you can buy design, but really maybe you just don't need a portfolio at all because the main thing that you're trying to get at, right, is that you want to show proof of work. So it's really like that cryptographic hash thing where you can say like where it takes a lot of work to produce this hash, but you can instantly verify it. And the way that I relate to this was when I was interviewing and I was talking to someone who didn't know me. He literally in front of he had his laptop in front of me, and he pulled my site up and he basically just Googled me as I was talking about the stuff that I worked on, and then he verified that I worked on what I said I was working on, and we had a really good interview. So you want to be able to show proof of work. The ultimate, like if it doesn't take the form of a portfolio, then a blog is kind of like the most default general thing because it's adaptable to any kind of work. You can just show some code, you can show some architecture diagrams, whatever. But that's kind of how I view portfolios. They just serve as one form of proof of work. Okay, so that's kind of like the main parts that we've assembled all our marketing assets. Right, we have a personal brand, we have a domain, we have a list of our business value, and we can market our tech skills. So we kind of assemble all that, and now we actually go out there and talk in public and network. I'm gonna pause for a bit. Like, does that all make sense so far? And is there any sort of follow-ups that you want to talk about?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Cool. Yeah. So, all right, let's talk about marketing in public. I had the table of comments, but I accidentally deleted it. Okay, so so now we have all the assets. Now we're gonna go out there, right? We're actually gonna take ourselves public. So the first thing is that you want to pick a channel. So basically everything here is kind of already public. Your personal brand, your business, your domain, business. Like this is kind of given, I think. So the final things are just like essentially optimizations for the way that you market yourself. You want to pick a channel, so it's preferably something that you intuitively already understand. So for me, I was on Reddit first, and then I joined Twitter. Like I had a Twitter account I created like 10 years ago, but I wasn't active until 2.5 years ago. And then I was like, okay, my people are here, so I should be here as well. Dev2 is also great, just like some platforms. And I'm not a huge fan of Facebook and LinkedIn, but some people are as well. I think Instagram and YouTube are huge areas of opportunities for developers because there's a lot of developers there, and people don't really create great content. I mean, some people do for YouTube, like right now, but there is an infinite appetite for more. Infinite, like it's just like people want really, really damn good content. Instagram as well, and developers are there hanging out. If you find yourself there, you should become a creator for them as well. I think
Do you think
these are
it's possible for a
as far as
developer to market on Instagram? Like
yeah, yeah,
what kind of?
yeah. Um, Avocoder.
Oh yeah, I know this one.
Yeah. Look, she does like diagrams and shit. 9,000 views, 9,000 likes or plays, I guess. 1,000. Yeah, this is way more than I get on Twitter for anything, right?
Yeah,
She has
that's amazing.
some fun personality stuff. Well, the other one is like coder. It's mostly women, I realize.
Yeah,
Coder, Instagram. Yeah, this one's big. She only started like a year and a half ago, and she's already got 40,000 followers. Like you have to understand, follower counts on YouTube and Instagram are way bigger than Twitter. Like
there's
on
TikTok also.
only on YouTube you can get to a million subscribers. There's no way you get that on Twitter. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
the audience size is huge, and people just don't like Twitter for some reason. You know. Yeah. So some like tips and advice and stuff like that. I don't know. You know, I'm sure there's more. I'm not. I don't use Instagram myself. You know, I feel a bit old.
yeah, me
But
neither. Me neither.
but these are, you understand that these are opportunities, and whatever it is, if you understand the platform, you have a natural advantage to that platform, and you should capitalize on that. Don't spread yourself thin, because then you're just kind of like inorganic, right? Like a lot of people use Buffer. Everyone can tell they're using Buffer. It just sucks.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Okay, so some rules for being in public. Don't lie. I think this is kind of self-evident, but basically, like, if you lie, you destroy trust, and once you destroy trust, nobody believes you for anything else afterwards.
Another thing that marketing is kind of lying by omission.
Sometimes, I think if you are responsible in like the subsequent, like, you only get so much space in a headline. You know what I mean? A tagline. It only gives you like 6-7 words. You know, so you can't really include everything. Nobody expects you to include everything. But I think responsible disclosure afterwards is important, so that people believe you when you say like, "Oh, I actually have a really damn good thing, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts. This is really the shit." Um, so there is a fine line. Yeah,
Have you?
omission
Yeah,
omission has to be done responsibly. And I think I probably feel about this more strongly than others, and this has caused some conflict at work.
I love it when some open source project they include in the README like known issues or known limitation. That's very honest.
Oh, even better. Why you should not use this project?
Yeah. Well, they
Right?
usually do this once it's super successful.
Exactly. That's the Redux case.
And how about exaggerating? Isn't that part of marketing also? Like,
Yeah, I don't know. People just don't do it very well. Everything's blazing fast. I don't know. I don't like it. But like, okay, you can hype up yourself. I don't know. You have to draw the line somewhere, right? Like, people understand that you're trying to promote yourself, so they give you a little bit of leeway. But you draw the line as to like where people start to lose trust in you. The main thing is like, don't lose trust, right? Like, as long as people trust you, you're fine, right?
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
That's
you have
the
to
main thing.
have to be careful. Well,
You do have to.
I think you usually know when you're kind of exaggerating. You know it to yourself.
Yeah, yeah. I think some people do this with like benchmarks, right? Like, we're the fastest library to do X, right?
Yeah.
And then they know that that's just one benchmark, and then in some different benchmark they look different, and they just conveniently not say that.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm okay with that. I understand how benchmark marketing works, right? So I'm fine. I wouldn't do it myself, but I don't blame other people for doing it. People have to say their best qualities, and sometimes you just don't have that much to say. So
I love how, for example, the Chrome team, they always used to do benchmark against the previous version of Chrome, whereas like
yeah.
Microsoft, every time they put out a new version of Internet Explorer, they used to benchmark against all the other browsers, which was a bit dishonest.
Mm,
And
yeah.
I think benchmark are okay as long as you're doing it in a trusting way, I guess. When, for example, benchmarking against yourself is always interesting. But
Yeah.
benchmarking
Yeah.
against the competition, I usually don't trust this. So
Yeah. Well, yeah, benchmarks is a whole different topic. Anyway, broadly, try not to lie. um, try not to share secrets. I think part of being in public and people want to you just receive secrets, right? As people trust you, and it's super important to never break that trust, because then no one will share secrets with you ever again. Inbound marketing. So I kind of call this inbound versus outbound personal marketing. And that's kind of the goal of everything that we're doing here, which is a lot of people only market when they're like, for example, a lot of people only reach out for jobs, right? Like when I need it, hey, I need a job. Let me go to a job board, and then let me send feelers out to 100 people, and then maybe hear back from 10. And then I'll see what they work on, and then I'll see, like, am I interested in what they work on? Could I see myself working for them? I think it's very different when you switch from outbound to inbound, where it's where people where you establish a domain, you establish what you're interested in and what you have expertise in, and people come and find you, um, which makes it obviously a much nicer job search. But then also, um, people want to engage you on the thing that you're an expert on, and you really have a passion for it. You're not just like twisting yourself to be interested in what the company does. You're just genuinely interested in domain, and you sync up in interest with the company. So I kind of call this like inbound personal marketing. I also try to like encourage people to market more. So like market like nobody's watching, because probably nobody is when you're just starting out. And you should do a little bit more than you're comfortable with. You should also like market like one person watching, which is kind of like targeting your message to somebody. And finally, market for the job that you want, because basically you might end up with a job that you don't want. Again, this kind of goes back to like, have you picked a domain that you can identify with? So that's marketing yourself in public, which is like kind of, to me it's kind of everything I do. So I don't have that much structure to this. As far as marketing yourself at work, so this is all the private stuff for people who are working developers. I think it's easier because it's a smaller pond. And people have to pay attention to you because you're a coworker. But it's harder because there's more politics involved. And if you abuse people to try to be self-promotional at work, that can backfire on you very, very heavily. Yeah. So the main ideas here are logging your own metrics. Again, it's kind of like the brag document. Log your own metrics. Basically, when you have a Slack, you Slack yourself every time you've done something good, so that you form a log of like all the good work that you've done, and then you can use that for reviews. If people ask you about it, you can have it easily at hand. I don't trust any metrics logging system. I literally copy and paste screenshots and links, and write numbers, because all these systems will fail you. Yeah. Okay. Status updates. A lot of people like don't really put any effort into status updates. You can make them awesome by putting a bit more effort, and people that will really improve team morale, but then also makes you awesome to work with, and that's literally like the point at which you market your work. So you should try to do it. Same thing for demos. If especially so, I found myself in my previous job. I found myself in a situation where I was working on a project and there was no scheduled update. Product manager wasn't there. There's just no updates. So I started doing updates, and people really liked it. So like, yeah, status updates are a marketing opportunity. You should take advantage of that to update the company, update your team, update management, update your boss. And make them great. Make them have be like pack them full of information and like good news and like expectations of where things are. Like if things are not going well, be proactive and don't surprise people. Stuff like that. Especially demos. Like take a advantage of demos. Oh, I like this signature initiative thing. So I took this idea from Amazon, but basically everyone has it. So Zach Argyle, I think you know him, right?
yeah,
He
from
helped.
React Native.
So yeah, React Native. Yeah, he now manages React Native. But before that, He worked at Pinterest, and he was trying to pitch converting Pinterest to a PWA for 2 years, and he got ignored. So at a hackathon, he just did it, did a prototype, and he showed Pinterest CEO, and then that converted it. And now Pinterest is like the primary case study for Google whenever they talk about the benefits of PWA. This is adding us money from Google, and yeah, they have all these like awesome business stats that they experience, and they talk about it on the Chrome Dev Summit stage and all that. And that was purely because Zach Argyle took the initiative, right, to pitch at a hackathon project, right? So it can be like something small like that. Obviously, this had huge business impact, and obviously now Zach Argyle manages React Native. But other people can also do other projects, like start an internal book club. A Lunch and Learn series is something that I started in my previous job. You can start an external talk series. Matthew Gersman, I don't know if he's spoken to React Europe, but he's on the speaking circuit in the US. But he started the JavaScript Guild at Dropbox. So he taught all his fellow JavaScript engineers, including holding an internal conference. And that really builds his own internal brand within the company. Right now, he's the JavaScript guy at Dropbox, and that's very valuable. So yeah, I mean, these are all like interesting ways to market yourself at work once you have all the basics sorted out. And things that do not matter, don't appeal to everybody. Don't worry about short-term stuff like day of the week to post stuff. Like I hate that. Don't worry about being a celebrity. Follower counts don't matter. I haven't mentioned follower counts once in this entire thing. The whole point is to market yourself without being a celebrity.
How about GitHub stars?
Even worse, even worse. But that's the rough idea. So I probably went longer than you expected, but this is a really like everything I think about marketing when I think about this, is kind of encapsulated in this image. I have a few other hacks. So this is the appendix of like other tips and tricks. I really like this one. Help others market. So if you feel like you can't market yourself, you can be a free marketer for other people and other projects. So right now I'm helping you do marketing for Svelte, and it's fun for me. But then also basically I'm showcasing my marketing ability. I'm practicing my marketing ability for Svelte, and that's really great.
Is that how do you call it? A French catcher?
A friend catcher is something that helps you catch friends while you sleep. So yeah. So I have a separate blog post. I took this from Patrick McKenzie, and it's basically like anything that is like a useful tool that is an asset, right? It's like the first part of productizing yourself, where you create like a small asset that helps people, and people learn of you through that, and they start to feel like they owe you something because you help them. They want to help you back, right? And that, so yeah, I mean, the React and TypeScript stuff, that is a friend catcher for me because now 12.3 thousand people started, and a lot more, have gone through it, and nice. They feel like I've helped them with learning TypeScript, and so that's, I don't know, that's a really good way of separating your work. Like ultimately, you want to separate your hours from your output, your time from your output, and friend catcher is a really good way of doing that.
Nice. So you do care about GitHub stars.
It's just a metric, but
yeah,
you can't really get paid with GitHub stars.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it does attract more people, but yeah. Okay, and how about like sometimes you're talking about logging your own metrics. Sometimes it's very hard to do this. Like if you're the only one who knows Perl on the team and you always fix a lot of stuff, but you don't really know how to measure it. How do you do this?
I mean, it's really up to you. Latencies, like you can translate to language and framework agnostic numbers, right? Like latency, people understand latency, people understand signups, people understand expenditures, uptime, session time, anything that is a metric. It doesn't really, like, nobody cares about Perl. They care about what you did with Perl.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Okay, and let me see. Do we have any question from the audience? Yeah, nope, not on YouTube. Because we're streaming on Periscope and Facebook also, but
Oh,
we don't have as. Do you know Restream?
no.
Restream.io. You can stream at a lot of on a lot of websites at the same time.
Yeah. Hey, we have a question here. Mitesh Patel. When you learn in public, you share something as an option, and people take it personally and start making offensive comments slash reply. How do you handle the situation, or how do you reply? Um, so, uh, so one, you never feel, you never have to reply. Two, you can listen, uh, listen to them, apologize. Three, um, um, so three, you can mute them. Yeah, I don't know. People
Uh,
have people, yeah, like people have a lot of agendas, right? And if they're not contributing to your growth, to your happiness, then you don't need them in your life. So I have no qualms about blocking and muting people, and it makes my enjoyment of Twitter really productive and useful because I work with people who understand that I'm trying to grow as a person as well. And if they're trying to attack you for a single tweet, you don't really need them in your life. That said, I do learn a lot from people who disagree with me, and I try to encourage them. So sometimes they may have an abrasive style. So, for example, as a moderator on Reddit, you get a lot of like. Sometimes they're just like trying to start an argument, and I think the way that you diffuse a situation like that, assuming that you want to respond to them, you don't have to respond to them. And you feed you grow a troll by feeding the troll, right? So don't feed the troll. But if you want to respond to them, if you think they have something valid to say, then you like make sure that they know that you're listening to them. You accept that the fundamental basis of what they're saying, and you try to reconcile it with your original statement. Um, so that's kind of how I figure it out. Like people want to be heard, and people feel like they get more uptight and aggressive and defensive when they think that you're likely not going to listen to them. So when you show that you have an openness to change your mind, to listen to the other side of the argument, back down quite frequently. And I've seen people like completely change their tone when they do that. So it's really great. I recommend that when you think there's something to be had. But if not, if in doubt, just remove them from your life.
I think a lot of people are afraid to do anything public because of this, because they're afraid to be attacked or ridiculed or whatever. If you do a technical blog post and you make a mistake, and they're afraid of their reputation, or even open source, and a lot of people who are scared to do pull requests because they're afraid of people like looking at their bad code or something. It sounds silly, but
Yeah, I mean, whenever the way I say that, there's always there's always a reason for not knowing something, right? Nobody knows everything, and when people attack you for that, they're the asshole and not you. And then if you keep your ego small, it's fine. Like they're actually the ones trying to teach you something. Because if they're right and you actually did make a mistake, then that's the best teacher. Because you will never make that mistake ever again. So if you don't attach your ego, your identity to your work, like the work that I put out yesterday was by a worse version of myself. I today should hate that work just as much as that person who criticizes me. I want to be better, or do I want to feel good?
I guess you need to be both humble and confident of yourself to do anything
Yeah.
public, I think. Which
Well,
is
it's not. I'm not even that confident. I'm just saying, like, you have a positive attitude, and you're separating your work from your identity, right? They're not attacking you. They're attacking the work that a previous version of you did. and this is your chance to be better. And they're offering to teach it to you for free. Like you could, a lot of people like, you could be ignored, or you could learn it a lot later, and pay a painful lesson yourself.
Is it possible to completely separate whatever your work is from your personal identity?
No,
Like when you put a
uh,
lot of yourself into something.
yeah. I think obviously that's an ideal. But I think you can try to remind yourself when you feel like you're getting upset. You know, it's kind of like a meditation thing. It's like someone's trying to rip apart my work, and then I remind myself. It's just more of a habit. So I kind of got used to it, and quite frankly, it just doesn't happen that much.
Yeah.
People understand when you're a learner.
Also,
It's more
yeah.
it's more of a problem when you present yourself as an expert and you present something that's obviously wrong. Then people really rip into you.
Also, as you
So yeah,
said, it depends how it is reported. Like if it's a troll, just block them or mute them. But if the person is being nice, then don't take it personally.
yeah, yeah.
Um, any other question? Don't be shy. Anyone?
I can talk a little bit about why I'm doing all this like marketing stuff. That helps.
Yeah, sure. Is it
Cool.
like do you is it only for like advancing your career, or is it also you enjoy it, or is it a little bit of both? And are you afraid that people will think that whatever you're doing now is only for marketing now that you've blog post about it and stuff? Like how do you keep people thinking you are being genuine and not just marketing?
Well, at the bare minimum, do it for free. So you have no way of gaining from anything apart from like try to be helpful online. Um, and then like yeah, but it is marketing as well, right? Like I'm also saying that and I'm also trying to prove that I have some credibility in this arena. Obviously, marketing is part of my job. Um, and I think it's important for people. It's an important skill for developers to have. Like I identify as a developer with my fellow developers. I find it painful when great developers out there don't get the recognition that they deserve. And I don't know. Hopefully this helps. This is just one random guy just writing about it, but I feel like there's not enough good stuff out there. So I don't know. I figured I would help. I mean, I took a few days to write this. But yeah, so the basic idea was that I was gonna try to write this book. Um, and this was gonna be one of the chapters, right? Where it was just like all the career advice for people. And yeah, I think marketing is one of the tactics that people should have among being able to have some principles as to how they approach work, as well as some strategy. So this was just the one thing I was like, okay, I can release this for free because it's generally useful to everyone who even if they don't buy the book. But it was also like writing samples. I needed writing samples for this book as I kind of work on it. That's all.
Okay.
But yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, is there anything else you would like to add before the end, or? Oh,
Um,
it's your book is out already, right?
no, I'm still writing it. I'm accepting pre-sales.
Pre-sale. Sorry. Yeah.
And yeah, the goal is to get out the first draft of the strategy section, and just be a general resource for early career devs. I think that there are a lot of actually there's a lot more resources for engineering management and technical architecture than there is early career devs. And so I kind of called it like, are you familiar with cracking the coding interview?
Yeah.
So that big green book.
Mm-hmm.
So I was thinking about it as like, what about everything else after the interview? Um, how do you like, all the like sort of early career dev advice? And I think that's where really people form their careers, and that's where probably I could help. So I'm trying to focus on that area.
Okay. Well, thanks, Sean, and um, hope everything goes well with your book. And uh, see you soon then.
Yeah, see you around, and good luck for the conference coming up.
Yeah. Well, I'll send you a message about this.
All right. All
Okay.
right. Thanks for having me.
All right. Cheers. Bye bye.